and the heroes thereof. You know, playing Fire Emblem the way most people do, i.e. resetting anytime someone dies, does kinda make Marth's fears unfounded. Like, he's never lost a compatriot throughout the entirety of the games he's been in. Either one of them. The only people who have died haven't actually joined his army. I mean, I guess he also lost Harden, but like, that's a different thing entirely. Nobody's fallen in battle, it's fine. I mean, to be fair, you could be the only one to escape, and you could live on the other end of the world while everything goes to hell and train a different group of warriors in a sequel, but, you know, let's be positive. We're definitely making it out of this alive. Medius ain't so tough. We killed him once, we can kill him again. So, one final time, how is everyone? Okay, not useful on him. We got an energy drink! Haha! We have found Medius' source of power! Medius is just staring at the other end of the field going, oh god, they took my Red Bull, didn't they? No! Alright, well, that was actually pretty weak in terms of a final how's everyone. I'm glad we got the energy drink, though. That was at least worthwhile. Personally, I was kinda hoping that the laundry pole would turn up again. Yeah, I kinda noticed. It said final chapter and everything. Alright, so, let's check out the field. Fairly straightforward chapter. Lots of dragons, of all shapes and sorts, including earth dragons and wyverns. So this is going to be an uphill battle, and I'm not just saying that because we're going up a set of stairs. And in the center of it all, we have the kidnapped clerics Lena, Nina, Elise, and Maria. And of course, Medius. He's a different entity, he's not one of the clerics. He's just a big old dragon who's very happy right now. So, the nice thing about New Mystery of the Emblem is the game will actually tell you who to bring into this chapter. Because they have conversations in which they say, hey, I'd like to be in the next battle, because a person I like is up there. Of course, remember when I said some of the characters could be dead weight if you didn't really use them? I haven't really used Merrick at all, have I? He's like the worst character of the ones I have to bring. The rest of them have sort of been on the team up until this point. But Merrick is not going to be helpful at all. Minerva here I wish I used more, but she should at least be up to par. She can actually fight. I mean, maybe Merrick could do some damage with Excalibur since there are wyverns, but I wouldn't bet on him. Oh, and by the way, in case you're wondering, only one character can actually save the clerics. So if you've lost any of these characters, Merrick or Minerva, you cannot save them. You also can't use Michaelis. That's in part because he wasn't in the original, of course, and they didn't bother making him an option this time around, but he says that, oh, well, I don't deserve to be the one to save Maria, even though he should qualify. And at that, Marth should also be able to save his own sister. Like, Sirius, on the other hand, I can at least kind of understand. I feel like Linde should have enough of a bond to be able to save Nina, but this one at least makes a little more sense. Nina was close to more than just Camus, but, like, she was the closest to him. Now, this one I actually find believable, because how many other people is Lena close to other than Julian? Apparently Militia was her, subordinate or something, like she taught her. We learned that from a minor conversation. And I mean, like, in terms of family, the only family she has is Mathis, and like, no. I could see how he would not be any help here whatsoever, because it's Mathis. There should be more characters that can save these people, but like, Mathis should not be one of them. He's the guy who sucks. Doesn't have depression, though. How do you not see the gigantic fuck-off dragon? You'd have to lob something at him, and, you know, that's just really hard. We don't have enough rocks, sire. We can't pelt him. I mean, we had 4 conversations about how certain people in the army want to talk to the clerics. Man, Jagan, you're a glass half empty kind of guy, aren't you? No, it's not Marth. I mean, I really like that we have the 4 conversations to indicate who you need to bring to this chapter, but it does kinda undermine this bit where everything looks hopeless. Because the game itself has told you, yeah, no, use these characters. They can save the clerics. It's fine. I mean, that's not really in Iris's hands. She doesn't know these people that well. Yeah, I'll stab him to death. I'm fine with it. I'll murder Marth's sister in cold blood. You think I have a problem with that? I don't feel anything. My grandfather said that was dumb and bad. Never feel emotions ever, is something Mackler probably said. Okay, so, right from the get-go, we seal away the Earth Dragons. Thanks, Binding Shield. Hey, don't mind me, just cutting in here real quick, because we already know that we're going to rescue the 4 bishops, and I'd rather not interrupt the moment when it actually happens. So, I don't have to talk about them separately either, due to the fact that they all have the same problem. They have some of the absolute worst availability in the entire series, because you recruit them right before you punch the final boss in the face, and therefore there is no time to train them whatsoever. So even in multiplayer, they're not particularly good. I say they have some of the worst availability though, because I would say that a few other characters are actually worse, but that's due to the fact that not only do they appear in the final map, but have some of the most obscure requirements for unlocking them. At the very least, this one's straightforward. Anyway though, yes, I guess they just decided to give the clerics throwaway stats because, like, they all have pretty terrible bases, and their growth rates aren't really much better. Their weapon ranks are all over the place, but for the most part, these bishops have like 1 or 2 okay stats, and the rest are bad. and even if the growth rates would come into play, they couldn't help. I feel kind of bad for them, mostly in the sense that, like, I don't like giving characters throwaway stats, even if you are never going to use them, because you get them right before you punch the final boss in the face. I'd at least want to give them something respectable, so that when you open up the game data and look at them, you're not like, oh, well that's thoroughly disappointing. Again, you're not going to use them, but come on, at least give them a little bit of respect. You removed 4 characters from the game, and therefore they have no real effect on the story outside of being kidnapped, and then you don't even have enough respect for them to give them good growths? Come on. Okay, that doesn't really help us though, because there's still plenty of other dragons that are a-okay with walking up and biting us to death. So, this chapter, where to begin? Well, of course, I went over before that in the original, if you hadn't realized to bring the 4 characters you need here, you'd have to reset, unless you wanted to murder the clerics. I mean, you can. Things just won't go that well. The nice thing is, this area isn't too wide open. It is a little bit difficult to have, like, well, it's not really a choke point because there are multiple spaces open. Choke point really just refers to when there's a much smaller space that you can block with, like, 1, maybe 2 units, but you can at least set up a good defensive wall. Like right here. Not too much damage taken, especially since Minerva dodged, but of course, they're gonna get healed by characters you can't kill. I mean, I guess to be fair, we have our own Fortify staff, which is nice, but still, I wish they wouldn't use theirs. It's cheating when they do it. Okay, so, because all of the other dragons move immediately and aggro on you, this part of the fight is really tough. If you feel like you need to, you should back off just because there are a lot of enemy units, and of course the Earth Dragons won't be joining the fights. So, if you want to thin their numbers down and play a little more defensively than I am, then go right ahead. It's probably a good idea if you can't survive this bit. You will be attacked by lots of Wyverns, though. That's pretty much inevitable. They do have good movement and can fly and all that. Anyway, though, I mentioned the Earth Dragons, so I think it's very important to mention the original version of this chapter, and also this version on harder modes. So, the Binding Shield, of course, puts them to sleep at the start of every turn. On normal mode, that's more or less just for flavor, you know. You see the Earth Dragons awakening, even if you didn't play Shadow Dragon and know that Earth Dragons are tough from that, you probably got that point from when we fought Harden, because there was a single Earth Dragon there, and that Earth Dragon was pretty powerful. Fighting one wasn't the worst thing, but fighting a lot would have gone south pretty quickly. However, there's one thing you have to remember. In the original, and in harder difficulties, Earth Dragons are summoned at the start of the enemy turn and get to make a move. So yes, they will attack you on higher difficulties. And to make matters worse, the Binding Shield will still put them to sleep. Now, you wouldn't think that's a bad thing, you know, even if it takes an extra turn, at least they still get put to sleep anyway. But you don't get much experience from fighting Earth Dragons if that's the case, because they get to attack you, and unless they attack some ranged units, you don't get to make an attack back. Like, if you've got a general with a javelin, maybe they could take care of it, but otherwise, yeah, it's unlikely you're going to get much experience from them in the first place, even less likely that you're going to kill them, especially if you don't get some lucky crits. So, yeah, they're basically worthless other than to just punk you out of nowhere. Now, I would say that this version of the chapter is more difficult than the original Mystery of the Emblem. However, original Mystery of the Emblem is far more rude, because Earth Dragons were the only enemies in the original version of this map. So it was just an entire map in which you'd move forward, get punked by a whole lot of Earth Dragons. You wouldn't really be able to do anything to them, so you'd hardly get any experience, and then they'd just disappear before you actually get to do something about that. It was an extremely rude chapter. Now that being said, clearly Intelligent realized that with normal mode existing and enemies not acting immediately when being summoned, that would trivialize this entire chapter. We'd just be walking forward and nothing would be happening. So they added other dragons to this one, which I think makes sense. You know, it's the Dragon's Altar. Lots of dragons were sleeping beneath this place, not just the Earth Dragon, and, well, the Earth Dragons take the longest to get up. They're like me. They're kind of awake now, but like, the bed's so comfy. You can get up later, it's fine. We'll just take our sweet time waking up. It's fine, whatever. We don't have to work until later anyway. It's good, we're good. God, I completely lost my train of thought with that. And that's why you gotta stop doing tangents. But anyway, yeah, so I think it makes sense that dragons would, or other dragons rather, would be here. And of course, like I said, that means that this version of the chapter, or at least on harder difficulties, is more difficult. Less rude because at least there are things you can kill for experience, but definitely a lot more difficult because enemy reinforcements are just going to keep coming, and dang, I actually maxed out Katarina. I rarely max out characters that aren't Rise, honestly, just because, you know, Rise is my only healer, and in the DS games, healers get good experience, so they just shoot right up. God damn it, Iris! I know she's maxed out on 3 stats, and like, especially in the DS, well, not just the DS games, any game in which the stat growths are amazing. 3 stats maxed out is actually really good, but still, it is much less impressive when you get absolutely nothing on a level up. Anyway, where was I? Damn it. I keep losing my train of thought, but that was a really bad level. Oh yeah, it's more difficult. That's basically the gist of it. More to kill, and of course, in addition to the fact that, you know, you already have Earth Dragons punking you, do you remember, the other dragons still get to move when they're summoned. So, like, that dragon right there wasn't a threat at all, because he just arrived, so I could charge him and stab him. That was fine. On a harder difficulty, he would have moved immediately, and now that we're moving into position, and we need to set up all our characters to speak with the healers, if we were on a harder difficulty, those dragons could just casually fly in or walk in or whatever and attack my already squishy units, by which I mean Merrick, who is the squishiest of all my units. Having Fina here, or using the Again staff, which is, you know, just basically dance but in staff form, that's really helpful, especially on harder difficulties, when you might have squishier units. Having an extra turn is just really good in general. Because I'm on normal mode, it's not a huge problem that I don't have Fina here or I don't have the Again staff ready, but on harder difficulties, do consider that you might need them. That being said, though, the other difficulty about reinforcements is you can't block them. You can see right there, the square that the dragon was standing on is red. The enemies can stand on these spaces, but you cannot block their reinforcements, so barring surrounding these tiles as much as you can with only 12 units on the field, many of which you need to use for purposes other than blocking, yeah, there's not much you can do about the reinforcements, which again is why you might need the Again staff or dancing. I just realized, I say again enough as is. There doesn't need to be a damn staff named Again. Damn it, game, I already have a problem! Stop making it worse. Okay, so we're almost done setting up. I say almost because Merrick is still nowhere near where he needs to be. Oh well, 10 uses the Fortify staff. Gee, I wonder if I'm gonna have enough. Oh yeah, you know what else sucks? Elise is all the way in the back. Merrick has to speak with her. Oh god. Alright, Ogma gets some experience. Okay, good. So, I'm basically just doing all of these in the order of how much I like the conversations, starting with Merrick and Elise because, honestly, I don't care about them as a couple at all. Like, I don't know. They never are really on screen together that much, so their relationship is just super boring because it's more implied than anything else. Merrick, you can just kiss her. I don't think anybody minds that. Anyway, though, yeah, not having Merrick attack Medius because he would die. Alright, and so, even though for some reason Marth can't talk to his own sister, here it's shown that familial relationships can actually free a person. Because Minerva just waltzes right up to Maria and it's fine. Ugh, God. I really don't like the fact that you have to use 4 characters. Also, I like this because, like, that line is made so that even if you didn't save McCallus, it makes sense. Because, of course, if you didn't save him, she hesitates because McCallus is dead and she doesn't want to tell Maria. And if McCallus is alive, she hesitates because McCallus is alive, and it's McCallus. Either way, she really doesn't want to worry Maria. And of course, as per usual, Nina comes in with the self-blaming. I'm not Camus. Look, I have a mask. I'm different. Who's Camus? Not me. Certainly not. Oh my god, Camus, you gigantic nerd. Also, I got used to the name Zeke, so like, this entire adventure has been really weird for me. Alright, so that one was okay. Canvas and Nina are alright together, but I don't think I discussed it that much in Shadow Dragon, but there's not enough time to really discuss it here. I don't think it's the best relationship, but it's an okay conversation. They're alright, I just wish it was written better. This one, however, I really like. Julian and Lena are really good together, which is why I wish Lena was in this game more, because, like, Julian's less good on his own. Okay, so that one was actually really sweet, and like, damn, Lena. It takes a lot of nerve to propose that forwardly with a gigantic fuck off dragon behind you. Like, you have to remember that for all of these conversations, Medius is just standing here saying nothing. And here's the first line Medius has had in this entire game, and it's in all caps. Alright, so let's get Lena out of the way. And bring Seda over here for supports. Alright, let's do this thing. Get fucked. Oh, goodness. Well, you want me to count the ways, Medius? Okay, let's see. You're still weak to Falchion, even though you aren't weak to the Divine Stone. I got a crit. This is normal mode, so your stats aren't maxed out, and you only have 60 HP as opposed to 99. This isn't the original, in which I believe, even before adding his defense, Medius actually have damage, so he could take a lot of punishment, I think. I'd have to have somebody who's played Mystery of the Emblem confirm that, but I know some people have. I know some people in my audience have, so at least there's that. But yeah, he's less of a pushover on harder modes, but goddamn. I was kind of hoping, like, to get a normal attack off, and then have somebody, or have Rise come in with the against staff and then get a crit, but sure, I'll just end the entire final battle with one attack, why not? Oh god damn it, Luke. Why are you always here to undermine good moments? Luke, I hate your existence, and that will never change. So, this is, of course, the moment in which we have every character say some kind of line about how they're relieved that the war is over. If you get the bad ending, then this is the half of the ending that you get. Of course, in that version, you don't get any of the clerics saying a line about how they're relieved. But that's because they don't actually join you. Because they're not the clerics. They're GHARNEF's minions. The heretic bishops. Oh, and also, little detail, they speak in the order they were recruited, which you might have noticed just because we got the 7th platoon members first, and now we're going through in, like, the early chapter characters. Actually, I don't know if it's, like, the actual, join order, like the one you, the player, did, because, you know, there's some chapters where you can recruit characters out of order, or possibly out of order, I don't know. I haven't really checked. I usually recruit characters in the same order. Like, if you somehow managed to get Caster before you got Sirius, which is, you know, unlikely. I don't know why you would do that, but maybe Caster would show up first, who knows? Also, I love how all of Ogma's mercenaries are just like, yep, time to drink. I'm glad they all know how to spend a good victory evening. There's not a bar anywhere nearby, but it's fine, they can wait. Ah yeah, Caesar and Rad still have to save Caesar's unnamed mysterious sister that they are always vague about for some reason, and I don't know why. And Bantu never appeared again, but like believe I said way earlier on, he does survive. He is mentioned in Awakening. You one-hit KO'd a final boss. None of the other final bosses in the series really, like, do that. They have some kind of defense or a second form or something. At the very least, they have more HP than the bar can show. No other lord can say they slam dunk a final boss as hard as Marth can. God damn it, Dice, you're the worst. Please, Maris, get a different reward from Dice. Maris, please. Maris, I just want you to live happily. I feel so bad for you and your terrible, terrible father. I mean, to be fair, Anna was probably nearby. There could be a secret shop in here I didn't check. Maybe it's on this throne. We don't have the VIP card. We can't check right now. If only Camus were here. Sirius in the background sweating. Bisexual icon Zane. I'm getting a divorce, Abel. Goodbye. And it's gonna be like 1,000 years before another conflict comes up. I like how he says that now. Like he didn't even notice until we finally killed the dragon, like, oh, I know we killed Harden earlier, but I guess I did fuck up, huh? Time to run all the way back to your house, Frost. So yeah, this is the depressing part. Yeah, none of the Wolfguard are really in a good mood. Especially Wolf. He is super not into murdering his best friend and liege. Shut up, McCallus, you nerd. Okay, back to bed. Goodbye. Okay, yeah, no, it's not recruit order then, because I definitely did not get Lena first. It's just that she was in front. Okay, so yeah, it's just general chapter order. God, yeah, I did not save Elise for last at all. So this is the part of the bad ending that does not happen. I mean, first off, Godo's not there, of course. The bad ending, the fake clerics, who are, of course, in actuality, GHARNEF's minions, the heretic bishops. That's when they show up. And they're just like, let's go home, Marth, this isn't a trap. I mean, they were able to talk plenty, but like, you only get 3 conversations. Oh no! God, no, Seda, why? No! You can do more! Jesus! I mean, I guess Militia's learned something, but also, like, goddamn. What the fuck? I don't think you have to tell Seda to be brave. Like, she's fine in this relationship. Martha's clearly the one who is more shy, as evidenced by Shadow Dragon, in which he did not realize that Seda was coming on to him. You know, I personally think that Seda and Marth should just have a conversation at the start of every chapter, because there's just not enough of these two. Is this the Suicide Pact thing? Because, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't bring that up with Marth. Most normal people would be worried by that. Okay, that's fine. It's not a suicide pact with God. Oh god. That's just messed up. This is the part of the ending that is not in the bad ending. So we have a second set of dialogue from all the characters in the game, except this time they talk to one another. Basically, you just have groups of, relatively similar characters, like the Altian Knights often talk to the Altian Knights, 7th Platoon have some conversations with one another, the White Wings are here, that sort of thing. Okay, Luke absolutely could not hurt Ryan with a pinch. Have you seen this child? He would destroy Luke with his bare hands, which I would like to see, but I won't. It's a shame. I cannot see Ryan toss Luke over a cliff. Aww. God damn, Roger. Even Militia has higher standards than Roger. Frickin' Militia knows not to date him. Alright, unfortunately this is not the alternate dimension in which we help Katria get off of her obsession with Prince Marth. No, Lena advanced on Julian instead. Anyway, Mathis, why do you still exist? Oh, Lena, please disown your terrible brother. Okay. I hate conversations, but I guess friendship is cool, which is apparently a concern I've had. Okay, goodbye. This has been me, Warren. I have certainly existed. Board knows where his paycheck comes from. Barst, you helped a lot too. Just off-screen, where we couldn't see you. You shouldn't be talking to Castor about honest work. He is kind of a scam artist. Okay, this is a couple I actually think is alright. We never really saw these two because we didn't have a conversation with them, or they didn't have a conversation with each other, rather, but like, they're the type who are just insufferable with one another, and it's like the one time I like Astrum. They are kind of similar to Clive and Matilda from Gaiden and Echoes. They're pretty great as a couple, actually. Yep, Dolphin Macelon, oh, and Thomas. All the characters who definitely exist. That is the most I can say about them. God, we know that Caesar has a sister he's trying to save, and that maybe Rad has a crush on her? I don't know why they're so vague about the sister thing. And so, Navarre was chased to the ends of the earth by two people he really didn't like. Ah, of course. I mean, I guess they were both ballisticians. They had that going for them. We had similar jobs, let's bond over that. Also, no one else in the army really knows who we are, so like, who are we gonna talk to? Oh god, I hope Dice isn't similar to someone in your family. Dice, you are the worst, and Maris, you are the best. Please, Maris. I hope one day you can move out from your dad's house. We have to spread orb awareness. We must let the world know that it wasn't Hardin's fault that he was evil. It was all the work of a cowardly orb. Okay, I do like how Elrine is actually, like, all about the power of friendship now. He started as an angsty teen rival, and now he's just all about showing those creeps the real superpower of teamwork. Because of one conversation, he's A-okay now. All it took was the GHARNEF comparison, then he was like, oh fuck, nope, my life's going in bad places, I gotta fix myself. I guess those two have a relationship. I mean, like, they're not really in this game that much to begin with, so whatever, I'll buy it. More believable than Elise and Merrick. And as per usual, Nagi is happy to go back to bed. Alright, so I'm pretty sure this is the part that most people really don't like because it is a little bit contrived, honestly. It is very much here to be like, well, A, this is why the Avatar wasn't mentioned in the original Mystery of the Emblem. And also just, hey, look, my unit and Marth are just best buddies. But yeah, Marth's like, hey, people should know your name. And Iris here's like, oh no, I don't need fame or fortune. I'll be a hero of shadow. Wink. It does come off a bit cheesy, and honestly, this is kind of unnecessary. At least the bit about saying, like, hey, you need to be a godlike hero. But honestly, like, Marth is already going to become the leader of every country in Arcania, so he's already going to have the reputation. Also, like, while Iris is pretty good, she's far from the only good soldier Marth has. Like, if nobody's going to remember Cecil or Ryan as much as Marth, then Iris is also going to become obscure. I do like having, you know, that last little conversation in which Marth and Iris bond one last time. That's nice, because, like I said, I do like them bonding over the ideals at the beginning, and I like them talking to one another, but that conversation could have been better. So, indeed, it's finally over. We killed a Hardin, we killed an abusive mom, we killed a shadow dragon and an evil wizard, and his followers, the heretic bishops. And hey, it's been so long since we've killed Lang, but we got rid of him too. It's been a long war. Not quite as painful of one as I feel like the game wanted it to be. Like I mentioned with Hardin, this game set itself up as one in which you have, you know, like, to kill old friend or fight old friends, and because you just get them to join you, while it is the War of Heroes, and conceptually it would be an emotionally taxing one, in the end everything turns out a-okay. I mean, I guess to be fair, like, it's not like Fates, which kind of promised one thing and then was too afraid to really deliver on any of it. Here it's like, okay, it had a setup, but as far as I know, it didn't try to be much more than, you know, just its setup. Like, of course, this was a remake of an SNES game, and while the story is better than Shadow Dragons, even in the original, it's still an SNES RPG story. It can be okay. It's nothing amazing. It has some cool ideas. Execution can be iffy at times. It's definitely a step above, like, NES game stories, at least, I'll give it that. Though, like I said before, I feel like the remake did take away a little bit of the original story. I do not like the fact that they got rid of the details about the founding of Arcania. I feel like that was actually, like, a really interesting bit of story, and could have actually been, like, one of the center points to make this game's story a lot more interesting. Because the story itself is fairly similar. What the game fleshes out is the game's backstory, and if they did that further with this remake, then I feel overall it would have, it would have just been better. This game kind of lives on the backstory and learning about the past of Arcania as a continent, and that it's more complex than what Shadow Dragon presented. For the rest of the story, I feel I've finally found a way to word, like, what I like about Fire Emblem protagonists for the most part. It's the fact that they're not necessarily static, like I said before. It's more so that throughout the game they have to discover how they can effectively, like, rule, or how their personality can be used to better the world. Because, of course, Fire Emblem is a series about wars, and so at the beginning, everything seems hopeless, and, Prince A has to figure out, well, everything around me is just death and horror, and what can I do? And so most of the games are just about the characters remaining true to themselves, but also, possibly shedding a bit of naivete, and then finding out how they can change the world without losing themselves. And while I feel that Shadow Dragon set up a different kind of character path for Marth, I feel Marth could have been, like, a more dynamic character in that game, because it clearly set him up in the beginning as, like, a vengeful child. He lost his home and his family, and he's very mad about it. I feel like that would have been a perfect setup to bring him to the point where, he's the Marth we all know, in which he actually hates killing, and doesn't really want vengeance, that sort of thing. But New Mystery of the Emblem is different because, well, even if that character development had happened and Shadow Dragon were actually well written, that would still be in the past, so in this case it would, still be sort of the now standard Fire Emblem character growth, in which Marth still has his ideals, and it does come up, fairly often, but it feels more mechanical, because when it does come up, typically it's so the game can remind you how many characters have died. Has nobody died? Good, Marth's happy. Have too many people died? Okay, Marth is very sad now. But I feel like it could have come up more, especially in a game in which you do have to fight old companions. I think the Caesar and Rad fight is a good example of that. If you kill Caesar or Rad, Marth clearly displays a lot of shame and sorrow over that, but, like, if you kill them both off, they kind of all just sort of glaze over that and just move on, and it doesn't really feel that well written at all. Marth's just like, oh, that's kind of sad. Anyway, moving on. But yeah, the game itself is set up in a way that sort of opposes Marth's viewpoints, because he doesn't just have to fight people he doesn't want to fight, which Marth's a pacifist in the first place. He doesn't like killing, but the fact that his enemies are other people that he knows and has fought with, that would clearly be painful to him, especially since the main villain for most of the game is Hardin. And they do an alright job of setting that up as sort of this point of angst for Marth. He shows apprehension about that sort of thing. He shows apprehension about the situation. He doesn't want to fight Hardin, but over time he realizes that Hardin is causing more suffering and that he does have to stop Hardin. So Marth has to overcome his own feelings to a certain extent. That being said, that doesn't change Marth completely, and I feel that's actually why, like, the whole kidnapped clerics thing is actually an important plot point. maybe it feels a bit cheap to just bring GHARNEF and Medius back from the dead, so that you set up one villain and then, oh no, look, it's actually the villain you already knew. Having to deal with the pain of fighting old comrades, you fight the people who are irredeemable and you know you hate, and you can just stab with ease. That being said, though, I do really like the scene you get if you save all the clerics, in which Marth is actually overjoyed that they were able to win the battle without, too much bloodshed, because after killing Harden, I feel like that would have been something that Marth probably was affected by more than the game shows. Like, I think there should have been more scenes in which Marth lamented the fact that he had to kill Harden, because then, in the end, that makes the scene in which you do actually save the day with fewer casualties all the more worthwhile, because there's a point at which you did fail to save a comrade. But in the end, not everything has to be all about death. Sometimes you can actually save everyone. I think that's pretty neat. Again, I feel like maybe being able to reset and not lose anybody ever, maybe that does cheapen Marth's character a little bit, because he's worried about losing companions, but mechanically, you don't lose any companions, that sort of thing. It sucks that the clerics didn't get a chance to shine, of course, but Marth's reaction to not having to kill people is real good. I just wish he could save his own damn sister, because seriously, why does that not work? Anyway, I've been talking a whole lot about the plot, even though it's not the best, and while New Mystery of the Emblem does put in a lot more effort than Shadow Dragon into its script, I still don't think it's quite enough. It has a lot more points that could have been, they could have written better or written more. I've discussed that plenty of times, so I guess we'll just move on to the rest of the game. The music is really solid. It's one of my favorite pre-Awakening Fire Emblem soundtracks, because I like more than just like a few songs here and there. I've discussed this before, but it's not to say Fire Emblem soundtracks were bad, but usually there's only like one or two songs in each Fire Emblem game that I really like, and at least until Awakening, in which it's like, oh, basically every song is good, and then Fates especially. Goddamn, Fates is such a good soundtrack. So music's good, art looks better, not fantastic. They improved a lot of the character art, and I do like the colors they used a lot more, but I don't know, I still don't like the art style. I feel like the games that came before the DS games and the games that came after it just look better in terms of their character art. And of course, I didn't touch on this too much outside of a few chapters, but the tile sets in this game really aren't that interesting either. Like I've said before, I believe, this is one of my favorite Fire Emblem games to just play. I feel like it's a game that, starts okay, but then gets really good near the end. Like, once you get past the prologue, the game gets more fun to play, and then after a few chapters it gets even better, and like, by the time you get to like, I want to say the last 10 chapters, it is really difficult not to just play through the rest. Unless, of course, you're doing an alternate file, and you don't have that much time to play stuff anyway, and also you played the game recently, so then it does become a little bit of a chore to play, but that's just the curse of recording LPs. I don't think that's a mark against the game itself. I do play this game every year, though. Because the translation patch came out around Thanksgiving one year, it's now just become my November tradition to play through this game. And again, I just get to a certain point, and it's a one more chapter situation. I just don't want to stop playing. I don't know what it is about the chapters, even compared to, like, the Game Boy Advance games, but, like, the game itself is the perfect length to just kind of plow through. I don't really want to set it down, and because I'm not even tempted to grind, nor do I need to, I think that also helps. Unlike with Fates, where it's like, oh, I could grind for skills. You know, I believe I've mentioned that before, but that is a temptation I have with them. I know this isn't the best Fire Emblem game, but to me it is just one that is really fun to play, and like I've said before, it has a lot of meaning to me, so I just play it every year before Thanksgiving. Not like all before Thanksgiving, throughout November, that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that's just about it for the discussion, so I'm going to let the rest of the character epilogues play out. And for the time being, I've been Fefner. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time for whatever I play next. Oh, by the way, one more thing. You do get a rank for how you perform throughout the game, and my rank... Yeah, that's right, fuckers, it's sheep rank! So you might be expecting a stinger here, but instead, I would just like to pay respects to a joke that didn't quite make it in. It was a brick joke I set up all the way back in Shadow Dragon, in which I recited the lyrics to Tora Market, or Barnyards of Delcatty. That song's got a couple different names, but I know it as Tora Market. and I was supposed to recite another few lyrics from that at the end of the Northern Market chapter in this game, chapter 19. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. I mean, I had to insult Boa. Well, that was a necessity, but like, in general, I just did not have the time to fit that in, so unfortunately I had to abandon it. Anyway, yeah, that's what I'm doing instead of the proper stinger this time around. And not just because I forgot to save some footage. There is an event viewer, I could use that, but no, this was more important. I'd also like to point out the Northern Market chapter in Shadow Dragon. I uploaded that November 16th, 2015. Like, what the fuck? That was damn near 3 years ago. God, it's 2.5 years since that part of Shadow Dragon. Also, I started Shadow Dragon in, January 2015, goddamn. That's a lot of time. Oh no, I'm old! Why did I end this playthrough off on stress? No!